What about in the gold work you did in Far East Russia? Any technical challenges there, or was that pretty straightforward?
No technical. You'll appreciate that it was a quartz blow, no overburden, 20 grams of gold. So, and in fact, Bob Schaefer, he was involved. He bought it, I think, from Cyprus, because Cyprus then folded. But there, it's not the technical. Well, in a way, it's the technical challenge because their approach to everything, we could never duplicate drilling a deposit the way they did it. Because the way they did it, you start 200 meters, okay? Once you have intercepted your vein, you go in between 50 meters, okay? And then you have the angle drilling. Then you have to trench, because it's exposed, the whole vein, and every 20 meters cross-cut, and you sample each side of the cross-cut. It would be impossible to do it today. And then 50 meters down, you do the same thing. You tunnel along 100 meters, 150 meters down. That's why they were 15%. They had mined it out, and they wanted the geologists who were participants in the project, they wanted 15% of the project because they had already mined it. But from that standpoint, but the other standpoint is really to be able to work with a geologist, because English was not an option. And I did caution the students, don't use a translator, because a translator just translates words. You need an interpreter. You need somebody who knows geology who can translate that for you. But sometimes there's some bad events where you say something to a governor, as I did in Kazakhstan, that we are going to help you with schools, we'll help you with medicines. And the guy translates, we'll build you a hospital, and we'll build you a school. That's where I do English through the translator, but then I cut it in Russian, because the problem with that is not only the translation, is that 6 months later, you want to see the governor, he doesn't want to talk to you, because you are not delivering on your promises. And that is the big risk, and it has happened a couple of times, I remember. That's the, quote, technical challenge in those places, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So technical as well as cultural. But
yeah.
Can you please share some of your technical contributions to the industry?
Understanding brine deposits. Really, the fundamental thing, and at Silver Peak, trying to develop for the company a model which apparently is still viable today, is if you pump so much volume of liquid, what is the decline in lithium concentration? And that model is probably still a very valid one. In Chile, the brine is so extensive that it really doesn't matter at this point in time. Although the contribution I did in Chile, all salt flats look alike, but they're not alike in chemistry. And each one of them, in order to get the lithium, what one has to understand is, in a brine, it's mostly sodium chloride. It's a salt brine. But you have some potassium, you have some magnesium, you have some sulfate. And if you just let it evaporate, sun evaporation, all of these combine, they precipitate, and your lithium is gone. So the trick is how do you clean this brine ahead of the lithium so that the lithium always kind of floats through the system until the end when you're ready to ship it to the plant. So at Silver Peak, and the key ratio in those places is the magnesium to lithium ratio. At Silver Peak, it's about 1:1. So what can you do? You'd have slake lime, and you combine it with the brine, and the calcium picks up the sulfate, and the magnesium picks up the hydroxide. They come out. Now the lithium is free. Now in Chile, it doesn't work because it's 7:1, too expensive. So what I did, because in the southern part of the Salar, there was a dolomitic deposit. And over time, I figured out maybe there is some calcium in there. So sure enough, I outlined a big calcium brine reserve in the southern part of the Salar. That's what they mix. Once you mix that, you precipitate gypsum, the lithium is free to go. Bolivia, where everybody's claiming about Bolivia, the Bolivia culture is the problem, not the Salar also. Bolivia is 26-1. So it's a magnesium brine. It's really not a lithium brine. But on top of that, the President Evo Morales, who is a socialist, he doesn't want to let you to make lithium if you could. He wants you to make the lithium product. He wants you to make the lithium metal plant. He wants you to make the battery plant. And he wants to make the automotive plant. That's what you're allowed to do in the country. So when it's going to be developed, I don't know. But each one of these places has to be looked at separately in terms of it. So these are the things. What do you do as a geologist to contribute to the solution of a brine composition? And that's probably what was the best things I've done, yeah.
So do you recall you've worked with a lot of people, different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Do you recall any significant experiences working with colleagues that you can share, either good, bad, or?
As I say, fundamentally, you have to understand the culture. You cannot go blind. As I told students, if you know the language, better. If you don't know the language very much, try. I always say, we're always so pleased if a foreigner comes and he tries to do some English. You say, well, great, So this is the one thing. The other underlying, if you don't know that, be sure you understand their culture. You really have to understand their culture. And the third one is that you better know your U.S. history, because they want to know your history, and it's embarrassing if you can't answer the question. And I remember when I worked in Kazakhstan, I should have mentioned I was in Kazakhstan for a year as well on a gold depot. Pegasus Gold, do you remember the name yet? I was going to be the general director, and then they folded. But I remember we used to all, every Sunday, go to the Dostum, which is it used to be the communist hotel. All the expats would go there on Sunday to eat. So I go up the stairs, and there are three lovely young girls with a stack of books. So I say, hi, how are you? What are you doing here? Well, we came with the government for the embassy. We're going to work in Kazakhstan. And I said, well, what are your books? One was the geography of Kazakhstan, the economics of Kazakhstan. And I thought to myself, you're just starting to learn about it. You're not ready to come and learn. This is one of the big problems, I think, that I don't recall. With the Chileans, I love them because they joke all the time. You're serious, and they joke. And as I don't know, I repeat myself, but they say you know a language if you can understand a joke in that language, because it's a social critique. And when you really know the language, if you can tell the joke in that language, and they laugh, So the Chileans, it was fun. My Spanish is Chilean, and my ear is very much accustomed because I worked in the field. I didn't work with the intelligentsia of the city, so my ear is very accustomed to hear chopped words and so on. Where Xenia, who knows Spanish, sometimes has a hard time. But in any country, as a general comment, I would say a geologist, and you would appreciate this, we are like missionaries. You go to a country, you don't know anybody, and you have to develop relationships, not convert people, but at least make them work together. But I think that aspect, Western companies failed, and the big failures, I think, are the colonialists, English, and then the French follow. And it seems to me when they arrive, they know everything, and everybody under them is not very smart, And that, unfortunately, that's right. But yet, on the other side, we're mavericks. We think that everybody's going to work just because we're nice guys, And that doesn't work always,
So we had part of a conversation about colleagues. You mentioned Mary Paulton and Hugh Miller getting you involved at the U of A, but are there any other particular colleagues that you've worked with in Far East Russia, Chile, that have good stories or made an impact, or it's people that you really like to work, individuals?
Well, I must say that at Cyprus, we had a very nice team. Some of them worked on the project, My relationship, a lot of them were the technical people, the ore evaluation and all that. And what I did is really was the link between the Russian contingent and then our contingent, to make things work smoothly. And from that, I think it was very nice. But there are many people who pass through, so I cannot point. Steve Thomas still lives here he worked with me on that. Then Todd Anderson was another guy, brilliant young mining engineer, computer very savvy. And they developed very good relationship too with the Russian contingent. In Chile, really, I was about the only one who was working on the project, but I developed a great relation with the other engineers. For example, CORFO. CORFO was the Corporación de Fomento, the development company of the government. They had done a lot of the work on lithium, potassium, and so on. And with them, we became very close and very supportive. Although in some case, in the chemical end of it, the chemical extractive end of it, there were a little bit of conflict because here is Foot Mineral Company arriving, and you're going to tell us how to do these things. We know as well. So, but after a while, they understood that we had the experience. We had a lot of experience, and it worked out in the long run. And now I will mention something about the lithium. Silver Peak, Clayton Valley, lithium, the first product out of the brine, Well, in Chile, we produce potassium, and lithium suddenly became much cheaper, And in the north, I might comment that up there, as I said, that lithium, and I don't know if I'm repeating myself, is that they were making potassium nitrate and producing excess lithium. So lithium now became free. You didn't even have to put a cost to it. That's why they could cut the price by half and shut down the Pegmatite operation. And I'll mention one that is still in existence today, if we get to that point.
Why don't you mention it now?
Well, the biggest Pegmatite producer today, lithium is brines, Chile mostly, Argentina is second, and Western Australia, green bushes. And the thing is, with lithium, when you have a mineral, spodumene can be very, very pure or have some iron in it. Most of the pegmatite spodumene has iron in it. And the thing is, when you extract or when you put the spodumene into a ceramic application, if you have a bit of iron, the stuff doesn't become out white. It has a slight yellowish tinge, has nothing to do with technical performance. Housewives don't like it. The top that cooks, that was the only thing. And we had to take out the iron before we could send it on. Well, in green bushes, their spodumene has practically no iron. It's very rich, and they can sell it directly to the ceramic industry, and that's what they do. And there's a huge pegmatite. And I might mention the story. The first time I went there, they were producing tantalum from the weathered part of the pegmatite, the top part. And then they showed me a core, saying here is some tantalum in the core, and there is feldspar. And I looked at it. I said, guys, this is spodumene. This is not feldspar. And then they became producer of lithium. And on top of that, when they recover the high-grade spodumene, they have also a bunch of it that's lower grade, and they ship this to China, where those guys convert it to make lithium metal and lithium chemicals. So that is it. This is, nobody can compete with those guys. A huge, huge, beautiful, beautiful deposit, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, what milestones in industry do you think have the biggest impact on the industry? You kind of mentioned, I think, a couple with drilling and different types of drilling, but overall, maybe?
Well, one of the things that one has to remember, that the lithium industry, when I started, was a very small component. There was nothing big that was happening. And then especially when I was mentioning the Atomic Energy Commission, everything was towards the hydrogen bomb, and then that stopped because they made the atomic bomb. So now the ceramic industry came in, and then the grease industry, and so on. So with that, I think my activities increased more because I had a lot of projects I wanted to do. But as you probably know, in industry, they're not interested in academia, kind of a research stuff that might help, because we didn't need anything anymore. But in terms of the lithium industry, the big change was the development of the Salar de Atacama. No question about it. I had been invited by the Argentinians after that to come in, and I spent a lot of time with Dr. Nicoli and others, going all over Argentina looking at their salars. And then we went to Bolivia, and that one it's a little bit funny. In 1977, because of lithium and the government's insistence, we had a lithium symposium. And the government blamed us, two companies, you're not doing enough. I mean, there's going to be 1 million electric cars in Washington by 1980. And you know what happened. So when we went to evaluate the Salar de Uyuni, now you're talking about 100 kilometers by 100 kilometers. It's this flat. You go 60 miles an hour on that one. And I call them the Lithium Safari because the USGS was there. I was there for foot. Blanton was there for Lithium Corporation of America and the Geological Survey of Bolivia. We all sampled the same hole, and by God, we all got the same answers. but that was that. So, but the Chilean discovery. Another, if you go after Chile, in terms of richness, there is none other that is known. I was invited with the National Academy of Sciences to go to Tibet, where they had discovered a lake, had 1,000 parts per million, an open lake, So we went. They're still trying to do something with it. China is trying to develop their own industry. They do have, and I didn't specifically work, but I did some evaluation. In northern China, the Qinghai Basin has a lot of lithium, little brine deposit, but their chemistry is wrong. They cannot make it happen and make large quantities of lithium from their brines. They're still trying. Going back to Russia, I looked at some of the Russian deposits, and they are nowhere competitive. These are pegmatites. These are with tin and beryllium and so on. The lithium was never important. A pegmatite today, by and large, will have 1.5% lithium oxide, or 0.7% lithium. Anyone you want to look at, plus or minus, they all, for some reason, the deposition or the intruding environment was such, maybe the magma had only 0.7 lithium, that's it. Now, in Greenbushes and in Canada, in Bernick Lake, apparently, that spodumene comes from another mineral that was exsolved and gives you spodumene plus quartz. Very rich, very pure. But Russia, as far as I know, they haven't had anything, although they had a big industry and they were making lithium metal, and they were trying to also make the bomb out of that in those days, But I would say that in terms of lithium, that's it. The Atacama Desert, the Chilean one, and the ability of Foot Mineral Company to get in there and become, a producer of lithium from that rich brine.
Can you tell us a little bit about honors and awards that you've received in your career?
Oh, well, one, I'm an All-American soccer player. Okay, that's not in mining, but basically it's through SME, and I grew through the Industrial Minerals Division, coming chair, and then from chair. But I have the 2 awards that I obtained. One is Hardinge Award, and the other one is the Robert Dreyer Award.
And what is the Hardinge Award given for?
That was for my contribution to lithium brines. And I think Dreyer also in another way. I can't remember the exact language that was on the but it's all related to brine exploration and lithium. Yeah.
Those are both very prestigious awards.
They are indeed.
As well as your past president award.
Oh, I forgot about that. But you know what? The chair, I was at the luncheon of industrial minerals, And there is a chairman's plaque with a hammer, and I don't know where that is. So I'll have to look. But maybe I'll have to build an extra room for all of my stuff,
Let's shift gears a little bit. Talk about AIME and SME. How did you first hear about AIME and or SME, and then how did your involvement progress over the years?
AIME, in those days, they were the 4 organizations, right, that were part of it. Foot Mineral Company, because they were producing a lithium metal, they attended usually TMS, and they dragged me along, maybe for wine tasting or whatever, I don't know. But I really started with AIME. I never joined TMS. And then slowly it shifted, technically I should have been with AGS, because of geology, but then it shifted to SME. And I started attending the meetings, and then it started going up. And the way I ended up to my position of presidency was because of Bob Freeze. Yes. Bob came to me, and it was a shock for me, actually, to hear, would you consider being blah, blah, blah. And then, since I was overseas, he took my place in AIME, because the SME president goes to AIME, and Bob took my place. But this was the evolution, And there's going to be a question. I think that although I probably didn't get much from lithium, because it's such a small segment, compared to gold or copper or whatever, or even industrial minerals. But it was the relationship and call it the fraternity, if you wish, that I could always rely on somebody or talk to somebody about elements. In spodumene is an industrial mineral, so mining is mining. Those are elements that go together. With brines, it's different. It was very solitary, because you don't have that many brine operators,
So did you work your way up through the Industrial Minerals Committee and then get on the board?
Program and so on. Actually, every step. No shortcuts, just to end up the ladder,
So how has your membership in SME benefited you in your career?
Simply because having the support of professionals, no question about it, I had a lot of relation with USGS, but it was probably the other way around, where they wanted more information from me than I could get from them, because they're generalists in a way. But not even today, if you look at coming to a meeting like this, I said, well, do I want to go? And then you meet all of the people that you have known through all these years, and from that standpoint, it's very good. And you hear things about companies, about mergers and all that. So it was a good relationship, a good fraternity.
So you would say society membership is still a benefit to the industry today?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Especially, you heard me this morning, I mentioned that besides the fact that I'm the candy carrier for my wife as she goes through the exhibit, but I would stop and talk to them, introducing myself as the last century, SME president. But I said, 20 years ago, this looked different, and not only because of participation, but the technology that has come in, into the industry, and the people, the younger guy who are coming in to see something that 20 years ago we wouldn't have seen. There was even one fellow had a drone. I said, she was collecting the candy. I said, I want a drone so I can track my wife. But, when did that appear in an exhibit here? I don't remember seeing it last year or 2 years ago. So all of these, that is the big advantage, that with this kind of a group of people, you can jump ahead and not, I worked my way through just because I never had any exposure when I started working. You sort of were on your own. You didn't have the support of anybody, basically. But I think that is, especially, and I think this is one of the questions for the young people, this is the opportunity you have to really get ahead in the world by being a member of SME.
So, in your opinion, what can we do to attract young people to the industry? Are we doing enough? Are we doing the right things?
Well, I'm not sure. One of the things that I do remember back in Pennsylvania when I still was with Foote near Philadelphia, and I remember looking at science books. It used to be something like minerals and the earth and mining, and then it became, the new books came out, minerals, the earth, and the environment, and then it became minerals and the environment, and then it became the environment. And I think over 30 or 40 years, the brainwashing of the young people has come in, totally unfocusing them from what the reality is. And Pam, I don't know if she experienced that, but I do go to schools. I did. And I have 3 parts to the talk that I give them. One, crystal shapes, colors, so it's pretty. And then, since we are in Tucson, Indian, so silver and turquoise, how they used the arrowheads. And then I have all of the stuff, the gypsum for the wall, the glass for the bulbs, and so on. And then coal. Oh, that's a good one. They don't know what that is. They have never seen. And my first question is, where does electricity come from? They point to the wall. They have been so, brainwashed basically to think that stuff exists without having to really take it out of the ground. So I think, how do we change that image? And I think industry, by and large, in those days, environmentalists, what can they do to us? Well, you have to really take charge of changing that. And today there was a discussion about how do you change that image. And there is so much technology, the dirty miner, and so on. No, things have changed enormously. And there is the opportunity, because today it's all the click, it's whatever computer, it's this and that. So you tell them that there is another aspect to mining. You can contribute to and benefit the society by understanding what's happening, what do you need, and you cannot. And I'll give you a story very quickly. The Santa Rita Mountains, where what's the company, Hardinge, is trying to develop the copper. Save the Santa Rita group. Oh, they're gonna pollute our water. They're gonna destroy our water. And sometimes they'll publish. The Arizona Daily Star will publish my story. And I said, you know what? Let's start talking facts. The mine is going to use 4,000 acre-feet of water a year. Okay, and they recycle a lot of it. Now, your pecan growers down the hill, they use 40,000 acre-feet per year. Okay, they've dried up the Santa Cruz River. And I said, you know what? I use copper every day, but I don't eat pecans every day. And they publish that, and that keeps on recurring, and I just keep on writing, and they'll allow you only 1 letter a month, so I don't care. But, there are certain things that come in that are emotional and not based on facts. And somewhere there, it's good that we have the high school teachers, the national meetings and so on. The more you do to that and of that, the better the young people will realize. They want instant gratification. That's the way it is. And a few years back, we had 3 of the top people from mining, and one of them said, it was very funny. He says, kids come to me, they want a VP job, out of school. They want to work 3 years in a golden parachute. I mean, this concept, of, no, you have to work your way through to make something happen. And then the other thing, I'll mention that at the university, after the seminars, that you would come, Dr. Wilkinson came to talk about copper, blah. Okay, and I gave him the format of the whole thing, the day, the class, the top. Okay, he spoke about this. Okay, he made point A, point B, point C, conclusion. What did you learn? They all flunk. But why I quit after 7 years is that I tried to restructure. Okay, I quit. I got tired. I restructured their papers, 40 of them, to say, you're going to be writing reports the rest of your life, unless you become president. And if you rewrite it this way, give it back to me in 2 weeks, you get a better grade. Half of them wouldn't do it. The girls were much better than the guys, by the way. But this is something that you see happening is, well, maybe. And then, to top it all, I talked to a vice president of, I think it was SRK at the time, talking about this. And he says, are you kidding me? I've hired not my people, but of some of these people. I sent back the report to them for correction so they can send it back to me so it's legible. And he says, and you know what? I pay them a salary on top of that. So something has happened in the society. I blame high schools. Number one, they don't teach how to write anymore. And today it's texting. It's 2 words, texting. So how do you fight that, How do you change that so they understand that they have to come up with a rational thought development, in their professional life? Because all of the pros that I brought in, I was telling them, this is what you should expect when you start working. There is legal matters, there is water problems, there is environmental problems. You cannot show up on the job, oh, I didn't know about this. So this is what I did for 7 years, every time giving them this opportunity to understand the real world out there. So this is, the schools ought to be doing that, continue to do something like that, to present it. But the opportunities now are just talking to some of the students that went through. The companies have these managerial sort of moving targets, they put you 6 months here, 6 months there, 6 months there, and then they see if you are VP material at the end of that.
So SME has a fair number of student members plus what we call young members. Have you had an opportunity to talk to any of them while you've been here?
Only casually when I bump into them. I make the first effort to tell, where are you from, etc., and talk to them, but not in a formal setting like this. So becoming a mentor, I thought about it, but somehow it never developed. Yeah.
All right. Well, kind of to wrap up, what is it, either one thing or several things that have made working in the industry meaningful to you?
Well, one was serendipity, Remember where I'm coming from, Coming from Europe, you finish school here, you don't know how things happen, you don't know where to get money, scholarships, because when I arrived, the society that I joined, the ethnic society, was the Ukrainian one. And traditionally, the children of the emigres became professor of history, medicine, a lawyer, but nobody technical. I mean, you just didn't have anybody to go to and say, can you help me with this or that? Even to go, what school should I go to, So I ended up in Western Reserve, University. So my position in my development in industry is like what is it, the plum in the pudding, plop, there I was, and then everything after that followed. I mean, assuming I was reasonably intelligent and I wanted to become a participant in the industry, then through SME, I joined SME, and everything just kind of fell together. This is the way it went. I wish I'd known more. The one I'll mention, for example, one of the biggest shock, I went with a retired president, and I can't remember which company, looking at a borate field mine in California. And sometime halfway through the trip, he tells me, don't you want to be the president of a mining company? And that was an absolute shock for me, because it could never have entered my mind to think about those categories, simply because of where I came from. No, you have a job, hold on to it, You don't think about these career changes or trying to jump over or something. So in Chile, for example, what was interesting, when we had conflicts, we had an excellent top lawyer there. And he told me, Ihor, stay technical. Don't get involved in the politics, okay? It was sort of interesting that this is not what I wanted to do. Later I became involved in Russia, and so on. But that's what I was good at. I was good at being a technical person, the best in the lithium. Okay, there you go.
Mr. Lithium.
Well, that's somebody just walking by says, you should write a book, My Life with Lithium. Well, I'm trying to write one. Not like that, Yeah.
So what advice would you have for today's young leaders in the mining industry and exploration?
It was interesting with Dennis when he gave his... why would you want to be in the metals business? It goes up, it goes down. But industrial minerals, you always need to build houses. But what I would say is that mining is a very rewarding career. Talking about underground mining or the tunneling and so on, it's a civil engineering job very largely. We talk about open pit mines, underground mines, but it's something that you achieve something that is important for society. If you're in copper, copper is needed. If you go in gold, all the wives of the world need the gold. And also, no, just joking about it. But there is a contribution there that unfortunately the society by and large has made it a dirty business. And this is not what it is. But today, that's how they look at it, But the technological advances, you look at all the equipment that was in the exhibit, just in terms of the new ways, even the conveyor belts, all of these things that are coming through. There is such an opportunity to be a good chemical engineer, physical engineer, hydrometallurgist, all of these chemical and physics, all of the applications, they can be put to very good use instead of theoretical stuff, So, but this is what I say. An SME obviously is the place, or AIME, TMS, wherever you want to fit in a slot. That's where you really can develop a great. It's a great opportunity for them to realize, their future opportunities. That's the way I see it.
Okay, as we kind of get to the end here, is there anything else you'd like to discuss that you thought of?
No, we were having lunch and Xenia was reading my curriculum, and she says, "My God, you've traveled all over the place," and yes, it was. And when you think about it, it's really absolutely mind-boggling, actually, where I've been. With the president of Foot always wanted to travel with me because we could talk for hours on a plane, and then we would read, and then the language in the Congo. It's a year. We went to see that largest pegmatite in the world, and we came back through Lubumbashi. And I wanted to get these beautiful malachites. Well, heck, they tell us you're plane. You're not on the plane. Oh no! So the driver of the car, and I still have, by the way, I am a member of the Legion of the Leopards, with a stamp, So there I had the letter from the general manager, the Belgian. So the driver tells me, go talk to that guy at the airport. So I went and, I sort of delicately showed him and saying that we need to go back, to Kinshasa. Oh, he says, no problem, talking French. He says, oh, it's going to cost you 100 francs or whatever the hell it was. I had 1,000. So I give it to him. He says, not to worry. Our accountant, I'll give you the money back. He comes back and he says, you know what? He didn't have any change. I said, keep it. So now we are coming back through Kinshasa, and I go through with my passport. And again, I showed my letter with the stamp of the leopard here, And he says, and I said, he's with me. But again, the time, when I think of it, mentioning married 30, we've been married 53 now, but married 30, but only she had me for 15 and raising the children. So, if I make any comment, I'm very grateful for my wife for being the support that she has been. Otherwise, it fails pretty badly, So that was good. That was good. In Kazakhstan, one of the things I did, it's very interesting. It's always a double door to the office of the minister, so nobody can listen. So I'm sitting here, and I have an appointment at 10. At 10 o'clock, there's a guy goes stuck, and he goes in. Another one, same thing, goes in. Now I got fed up, so I went up, I knocked, and I went right in. And they were sitting there also. I knew the vice minister very well, actually, Marat Bidimbai. And they're talking in Kazakh, obviously. So I stand next to them, and in Russian I say, I don't agree with you. And you should have seen their reaction. They thought I understood what I did. But these are the sort of little things that are easy. And in Kazakhstan, there was a gold deposit that was being bid. And Pegasus Gold, I was with them at the time. I mean, we had the best bid, no question about it. And we were going to pay $20 million for the right to negotiate, right, on the table. And then the results come back as Australian company had no mining operations, win the bid. So I go to Marat Bitimbaev. I said, what is this, Marat? What the heck? So he goes to the table behind. He says, there are 3 feasibility studies here. Yours, the French, and the Australians. Could you please pick them up and tell me what's in it? Because we don't understand it. So that's what we did. And the Australians got kicked out because of the way we analyzed the thing. But the French, he got it anyway. And there is a lesson there for everybody, is that the French won it, and I'm glad because it was a lousy mine. I went there later. But if you invite the minister to France, it's the food, it's the beautiful thing, it's probably a little house and schooling for his children and a little villa for retirement. And what happens when we invite them here? A barbecue outside or something like that. We lose against those guys, But it's very interesting how you approach, You can't yell with them. In Uzbekistan, I learned it very quickly because I was the president of Newmont Uzbekistan Limited, the 50-50 partner. And that time at the mine, they had poured gold, and there was always an Uzbek who came into the gold room to be sure they weighted it on a rough scale and then shipped it to the refinery where they really got the weight and then shipped to London on their airplane. And that time he came with 2 guys, and the sign said, 1 only. Now he got so mad, the Uzbek, he shut the operation for 2 weeks. So in the Soviet Union, everybody yells. I mean, I would yell you down, and you yell him down. So I called the minister, and I said, you know what? We are partners, aren't we? He said, yeah, we are partners. Do you realize you just lost $250,000 in 2 weeks? Man, that phone went, and he fixed it immediately. So it depends how you approach. You have to really have to understand the motivation of these people. And in the development of one of the deposit, there was a second gold deposit we wanted to do. We knew the director. Zenya had toasts in Russian with vodka, dinners with him, and he lobbied against us. And I figured out why it was. He was a mining engineer, but in those schools, you're a mining engineer electrician. You're a mining engineer driller. He was a mining engineer driller. And his fear was, I was sure, and I used to talk to him, you're going to be together. You'll see how Newmont operates, He was afraid that he wouldn't understand the technology. And once that happens, the Iron Curtain falls down. End of story. And it was the same with the young guys who worked at the mining department. I mean, all Savile Row suits, spoke English perfectly. But what happens, if you send me a project, and page 23 to 25 is bad, you call me up and says, Ihor, can we get together over coffee, discuss this? They would never do that. And I figured it out because their mindset now was, Ihor Kunasz of Newmont would think that I'm stupid because I didn't understand what was in that report. And therefore they wouldn't do anything about it. They would shove it to the side and nothing happened. So after 4 years, I just had enough. I just said, Newmont paid me well, all that, but what do you do with your life? So that's the way it was. And we were lucky, by the way, Zenya speaking Russian, and I learned my Russian. We did not have to have a translator for our daily life Big, big difference. Big. And therefore, the Uzbeks would invite us to weddings, to circumcisions, to funerals. Another very interesting story, because you can get to talk to somebody in the ministry, but when there's a funeral, they're all standing there outside, after they feed you. So you stop by and you say, Mr. Minister, could I see you tomorrow morning maybe? And it's done. It's done. That's the way you do these things. So unless you know how to do that, it's a miserable life. It's a miserable life. So that's part of the life, That's part of the life. And our house, if you come to our house, it's our world. Where we were, it's from here. We didn't buy anything special to decorate. We just had it collecting all over all these days.
Ihor, fascinating career. I always enjoy listening to you.
Thank you.
You talk about your career and your stories. It has a lot of meaning, and hopefully people can learn something from it.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I'm sorry I didn't have any of the bad jokes to tell you in Russian.